me built a castle, brick by brick, bare hands, no silver spoon, just dreams and rubber bands. Filipina queen got fire in her veins, ADHD brain turned chaos into gains. They said it's in her head, nah, she flipped the script, turned the noise in her mind to a money clip. Culture tried to hush her, told her she too much, now she too much cash, too much clutch. Amy don't stop, nah, Amy don't quit, turn too much into gold, made the doubter sit. She's a storm, she's a wave, she's a business machine. Say it loud, say it proud, she's the ADHD queen. Late diagnosis, but early ambition. Had to battle old ways, now she's on a mission. Too hyper, too wild, they called her a mess. Now her business booms while they second guess. Pinay power breaking every old taboo. Mental health matters, she made it true. Focused in the chaos, she made a mark. Turn what they call a flaw into a spark. Labels couldn't cage her, now she rewrote the tag. Amy wears resilience like a LV bag. ADHD mind, but she's steering the wheel. Made her own lane, broke the bamboo ceiling for real. Broke the bamboo ceiling for real.
Hello everyone. Happy Saturday to you all. I hope you're all doing well. And thank you so much for joining us today. Today is going to be a very, very, very personal and a very fascinating and awesome episode, at least for me. And I hope it is for you as well, because the guest is actually someone who I can relate to on not just a professional level, but also a personal level. So, as you all know, the topic for today is ADHD in Asian communities or ADHD within the AAPI households in general. And the reason why it's personal to me is because I'm also Asian, even though no one believes me that I'm Asian, but I'm 100% Asian, believe it or not. And that's why I am very excited that the guest who we have today has agreed to uh, be transparent with her story and be brave with her story and share with us about being getting the late diagnosis with ADHD and also how she turned the diagnosis into a superpower for herself and her community. But before we go any further, I do want to say hello to everyone who has joined us and also, I have a trivia game for us to play before we get started with the conversation. So before we go ahead and do all that stuff, Kenny, Daddy Kenny, thank you so much for being here as always. So those of you who don't know, Kenny has been a huge support system for me behind the scenes. So I very much admire him and his dedication to supporting me and whoever else he thinks that is worth his time. Let's just say that. And then we have someone named Yolanda. Hi, Yolanda. Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate you being here. I'm sorry you're in LinkedIn jail again, Daddy Kenny, but you're still here via YouTube, so I'm excited for you to be here. And Jackie is the biggest badass ever. And I'm so happy that she is always supportive of me, regardless of how busy she is. And I got to meet her in Chicago earlier this year in July or in the summertime. So I am even more thrilled about that. And then it's understandable, Daddy Kenny. It's fine. As long as you're leaving your comments on YouTube, that's all that matters. And we have Yolanda again. Thank you very much, everyone. And those of you who are trying to make a comment on LinkedIn or YouTube, but if it's not popping up, it's not because I am ignoring you or I don't like you or something like that. It's just that StreamYard is not connecting the comments. So, um, so yeah, apologies in advance. If you have said something in the comments section, uh, sorry if it's not popping up. And Jackie, is amazing and supports something that's absolutely right. And then Savor the Flavor of YouTube live chat. That's right. Tingy was here 1164. All right. So I think we have a pretty good amount of people joining us today. So why don't we go ahead and get started with the trivia that I had? It's not a lot. Uh, but it would be a fun little thing to play around with. And then we will bring Amy over, who's our guest, obviously, and then learn about her and her story. Okay, so trivia is true or false only. I'm gonna give you like 5 seconds to figure out who is getting all the questions right. Maybe I will give them a surprise as a certificate if you get the answers correct the most. Okay? All right, so question number one. Once again, it's true or false only. So the question is, or the statement is, Asian Americans are less likely to experience mental health challenges than other racial groups. Is that true or false? Post your comments in the comment section. Post your answers. No one's gonna bite. It's okay if you get it wrong. So once again, the statement is Asian Americans are less likely to experience mental health challenges than other racial groups. We have Alan saying false. Timmy was here saying seven. I don't know what that is. But the correct answer is false. Asian Americans experience mental health challenges at comparable rates, but are far less likely to seek help. So, all right, we have one, two, three people who said false, and I don't know who Yoyo C7087 is, but the correct answer is false. Okay, second question or second statement. Asian Americans are one of the least likely groups in the US to use mental health services. Is that true or false? Asian Americans are one of the least likely groups in the US to use mental health services. True or false? Remember, you have 5 seconds to answer via chat. Okay, I'm not seeing any responses. So the correct, Alan, you said true. Timmy says true. And then, okay, so the correct answer is true. And Jackie also says true. So Asian Americans are about 3 times less likely to seek mental health care compared to white Americans. So uh, that is awesome. Thank you all for answering. And hello, Lisa, Vivek. Really great to see you here. Um, all right. Question number three. If mental health issues aren't openly talked about, it usually means they don't exist. Is that true or false? If mental health issues aren't openly talked about, it usually means they don't exist. Okay, there's a delay, so okay, I will do more than 5 seconds. So false. Silence often reflects stigma, shame, and cultural conditioning, not absence of distress. So that's whoever said false was correct. Asian American, sorry, if mental health issues aren't openly talked about, it usually means they do not exist. That is completely false. So kudos to everyone who got that correct. All right, next one. Many Asian American families view mental health struggles as a personal or family failure. Is that true or false? Many Asian American families view mental health struggles as a personal or family failure. Okay, the correct answer is true. Mental health is often framed as weakness or something that brings shame to the family. Uh, Timmy says, looks at the skin color, I'm gonna stay out of this one. Okay, I don't know what to say to that. So, all right. Next question, which is the final question. Oh, sorry, it's not the final question. I'm going crazy. All right. Asian American youth have some of the lowest suicide rate or suicide risk in the US. Asian American youth have some of the lowest suicide risk in the US. Is that true or false? Okay, it is false. Suicide is one of the leading causes of death for Asian American youth and young adults. There's actually a Bollywood movie that came out that references just that because of the amount of pressure that's added to the Asian youth or Asian American youth, either or, and they are number one in suicide. So just want and sorry if it triggers anybody here, but it's fact is fact. Just wanted to share that. And okay, this should be the last question. Emotional suppression is commonly taught as a coping skill in Asian households. Emotional suppression is commonly taught as a coping skill in Asian households. Is that true or false? The answer is true. Phrases like be strong, don't complain, and others have it worse normalize silence. Com- So, once again, the answer is true. Phrases like be strong, don't complain, and others have it worse normalize silence. So, thank you all for playing. I really appreciate everyone's participation. And the last things that were mentioned in the true and false question, it actually very much applies to me as well. Because if you talk about, oh, I'm not feeling well, or even if you're introverted, really, if you don't want to participate in something, or if you're feeling low about something, or feeling depressed about something, we always got the answer of it's all in your head, get over it, don't complain too much. There's people starving out in the world. You have it way better, so get over it. That is basically the generational traumas that are being transferred from one generation to the other. And we're here to break those stigmas, damn it. All right. I have talked a lot, but I just want to tell you that before I bring up Amy, who's the star of our show, the guest, uh, how did I meet Amy? How do I even know that she exists? So, believe it or not, when I was working in corporate, and even nonprofits, I had the opportunity to make or build team bonding events for my specific departments. And we worked with a business called Kits by Foodcraft. And the first time we got, it was like a holiday gathering or something like that. This was like 4 or 5 years ago and we got kits from Kits by Foodcraft, a boba making kit. Each individual human being got their own kit, and it was supplied with everything, all the essentials that you would need to make bubble tea or boba, whatever you all refer to it in your specific states or cities. And we made that at home, and we did this virtually, and we had an amazing instructor. I am so upset that I don't remember their name, but they were our instructor and they guided us step by step to make sure that what we do is uh, is exactly the correct thing to do and to make sure that our drink tastes delicious because why wouldn't boba taste delicious? So, but it was a phenomenal experience and we did that twice. We didn't just stick with boba, we did something with alcohol as well, but it was freaking amazing. And I wish I could do the cookie decorating class or even sushi making class with Kits by Food Crafts. But maybe one day we can. And I got curious to know who is this amazing individual who founded this company. So obviously my detective mode went live and I came across Amy, who was the founder of it, eh, founder and CEO of Kids by Foodcraft. And I read her profile and I knew she was not uh, Caucasian American or anything like that. She was definitely a Filipina, maybe, if not, then Latina American. And her profile said that she has ADHD. And I'm like, yes, I need to talk to her. And to my luck and surprise, she reached out back to me, and now we're here. So, without further ado, I am so excited. Oh my God. Please applaud and please send your love and care and good vibes to Amy, and who will share her full last name because I cannot say her last name properly. So if she can tell us how to pronounce her last name properly, that would be awesome too. So, Amy, thank you for joining. So
Thanks
happy
for
to have
having me.
you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I will pronounce my full name. It is Amy Moslares Aguirre. My husband is really passionate in rolling the R every time I say the word Aguirre. But my Moslares is Filipino last name, and my husband is half Colombian, half Ecuadorian, where I got the Aguirre as my last name.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so excited to have you here. And anyone who's watching or participating, please know that I try to match Amy's brand colors, which are orange, a specific type of orange. And I even wore the only orange thing that I have, which is like right here on my jacket, just to match her and her energy. So, Amy, now that you're here, uh, it would be great to learn more about you as a person. I know a little bit about you because we had a call before, so that's different. But let's pretend that you and I are meeting right now for the first time. So, what would you like for me to know about you or everyone else to know about you?
Well, my full name is Amy Lean. Like that's my full name, and I go by Amy. But a lot of my friends, if you call me Mimi, that is because you probably known me since high school. So Amy Mimi, that is me. I would probably turn my head around. I was born and raised in Makati City, Philippines. I moved here 15 years ago. Started in Florida, moved to New York City. I love Gossip Girl. I remember watching Gossip Girl. I'm like, I want to go to New York City. And the idea of staying in New York and starting my hospitality career there is so attractive, especially that time Food Network is a big thing, right? Like all these restaurants, all these hotels are in New York City. So that really inspired me to move there. And then now I live in Fort Worth, Texas. It is day and night, New York City and Fort Worth, Texas. If you guys don't know where it is, it's next to Dallas. A lot of ranches, definitely a lot more quieter. And now that's just where Food Craft, my business, is located as well.
Very nice. So, you moved your business from New York City to Fort Lauderdale, Texas. And oh, go
Fort
ahead.
Worth.
Fort Worth. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Fort Lauderdale is in Florida. Sorry, that was my fault. Fort Worth, Texas. Okay, and then your team is basically all throughout the US, right? Or or globally?
Yeah, so we have a global team. We have instructors in California. We have instructors in New York City. I even have an instructor in India. But a lot of my operation teams as well are in the Philippines. So I would say global. That's one of the perks of having a remote team is that you have access to talent all over the world.
You are so right about that, and I'm glad that that's the case because I think the person who was helping us assemble the boba kits,
Mhm.
she was from New York. She wasn't from California, and we're all here in California. So that's awesome, and that's great to know. So I guess that warrants the next question is, what inspired you to create Kits by Foodcraft? What's the story behind that?
Well, I wish I could say that there's like a business plan, but the truth is not. Everybody is sometimes you would go to a job and I always wanted to have my own business. I knew that it's gonna be food, but I think that having to work in restaurant too close, I realized like God, this is too hard. Having a restaurant is a lot of work, but there's an idea of like, well, I still want to be around food, and so I have that in the back of my mind that one day I'll have a business about food, and but you have to pay your bills, right? You have to survive. Not everybody can just jump into like, I'm gonna leave my job and start a business. I didn't have that. As an immigrant, I have to live paycheck by paycheck. I have to do so many things. Sometimes I would even have to work 2 3 jobs when I was starting. So it wasn't really like I'm gonna jump into this idea. So it really started as an idea, but like little by little, I'm honing the idea until one day I was like, you know what? What am I waiting for? I'm just gonna jump into it. It really started when my father passed away. I remember telling to myself, like, wow, life is really short. I don't know what I'm waiting for. Next thing maybe something bad would happen. Of course, knock on the wood, but like it really gave me that almost like fire in me that I have to start. Like, what is my excuse? At some point, I feel like I was just making an excuse. I was living in a fear of like I still need to survive. But I was so ready to start my own business. I told myself, look, I'm gonna start it. If it doesn't work out, I can always go back to a full-time job. So I gave myself a good 3 months. I'm gonna give myself 3 months break. If it doesn't work, not even one single customer, I'm gonna go back to my previous job. And I spoke to my boss about it, that I had this desire of having my business. And so, that was the arrangement. If it doesn't work out, I could always come back.
That is awesome. So it basically was step by step, little by little, it became more and more of so right now, like I've seen those kits that we have to assemble. So there's like different items that we get together with the assembling guide, and then but th is that what you wanted to start off with initially, making kits or something else?
Yeah, so when I started the business, I like what I said, I wanted to be around food, right? I jump into making a I wanted to have a studio, really. I wanted to have a cooking studio. In my previous restaurant, we were struggling in lunch and dinner service. We feel like it wasn't enough. It was a restaurant by the Empire State Building. And if you would think in New York City, like there must be a lot of traffic, but there was just too many competition. And so I actually introduced the idea of sushi rolling classes in that restaurant. And then from there, I was like, well, I like the idea so much. I feel like that was the idea. I don't want to open a restaurant. I'm going to open a cooking studio where I can also do the same thing, like the sushi rolling, but maybe a bubble tea making. I love bubble tea. It's my guilty pleasure. So that's one of the things that I thought. So the idea was to open a cooking studio. But then the pandemic happened. I cannot forget the date. It was March 8th. March 8th was, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do my first event. And then New York City got shut down March 15th. And I remember telling to myself, like, did I just quit my job for a business that would just last for 1 week, not even a month? And so was sitting on a lot of bubble tea supply because at that time my event was a bubble tea making. And I thought was like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't do social events anymore. And so I'm sitting on the supplies. I thought I'm going to open a DIY bubble tea kit box. Now, how did I come to that idea? I remember seeing people were like freaking out that they cannot get bubble tea anywhere else in New York because all the boba shop was shut down. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. Let me, instead, since they cannot go to me, right, to learn how to make bubble tea, why can't I just create a box and then I will bring the experience to them? So you're right. It really started with a box because I was thinking to my head, maybe it's my ADHD when I overthink. I was like, why would I do a virtual class teaching people how to do bubble tea and expect people to pay for it if they can just watch YouTube? Right. So I was
Mhm.
like, there has to be a box that comes with experience. And so I started with a box. And then eventually, where I was like, I felt good about the actual box of product. And then I'm going to introduce the virtual event. So that's really how that happened in a span of a good 1 month. As you know, ADHD has impulse. All that thing happened within like maybe 3 4 weeks. And next thing you know, I'm hosting virtual events.
That is so freaking amazing, and I applaud you for that, Amy. And I thank you so much for sharing that story because the impulsiveness is true. I think my partner sees it with me as well. Like I want to do everything, and when the focus is there, it is there. It's just it's not going anywhere. So thank you so much for sharing your journey about Crits by Foodcraft. And you did mention ADHD. So, and when you and I talked, you mentioned that you were diagnosed later in life with ADHD. So, uh, the first part is what made you get tested? And second of all was because we're coming from a Filipina or an Asian background, and like we said earlier, that it's very hush hush kind of a thing if someone has if someone is neurodivergent. How did your family cope with that as well?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I'm from New York City. That's where I started as an immigrant, and I moved to Fort Worth, Texas. And I recall feeling so like maybe the first 6 months was really hard for me. I think part of it is because I didn't know how to drive. So in Texas, anywhere in Texas, if you can't drive, you have no life. I had to wait for my husband to drive me around, and I was just in the apartment. I was sitting in silence, and it was really hard because I'm not used to that. I'm used to like doing so many things. I'm used to like going at 11 o'clock to a bodega and grab something. Or if I forgot to do something, I could just order Uber or whatever that. I mean, Uber like food, right? It's not really like that here in Texas. So I was sitting in silence. I was having a lot of anxiety that I didn't know that I have. And fortunately, my husband has given me the health insurance as a business owner. You don't get to have that free perks or like benefits, right? And so I remember telling my husband, I think I'm going to see a psychologist because I'm going through this emotion. I don't know if it's because of the change of me from New York City to Fort Worth, Texas. I don't know what it is, but I was feeling a lot of anxiety, and that's really how it started. The first therapist that I met was interesting. He said that finding friends or community in Fort Worth, Texas might be cheaper than going to therapy. And I was like, whoa, what did you just say? And I was like, maybe he's right, maybe he's not right. But then again, I tried again for another 3 months. After 3 months, and I found another woman who helped me, and then she explained all these things. And so that was really the start of it. Mind you, that was only 2.5 years ago, very recently. But that really, the silence in Forward, Texas, is just like my friend was saying, like, why are you so anxious? I'm like, I'm just being me. I'm just moving fast. I'm like, no, it's not, because everyone else is calm and chill. And in New York, like everyone is like always running and catching the subway, grabbing so many things. So that was really interesting. And I remember telling this to my husband first, and I was bawling my eyes. I was like, "Oh my god, I have ADHD. I told you it's not my fault," because I felt really so much guilt about so many things. Like he would ask me things like, "Why can't you close the cabinets?" I don't know. Why is it that you don't close these things? And then I'm like, I really don't know. And there was a lot of shame with it. And having to have the diagnosis gave me a lot of validation. Um, but not exactly an excuse, right? But like more like a validation that I just have to rewire my brain or do things differently. And then I told that to my family. I was so excited about it because it almost like, oh my God, I think I figured it out because we all have the same patterns, And they were so, I think they were so welcoming. Like they were very encouraging. It wasn't like, oh, there's no such thing as that. I think all of us have the feeling of like there's something going on with this family. We just don't know what it is because most of my family is still in Philippines, and we don't really have access to, a lot of mental clinics or all that stuff. And I know we're going to talk about it, but it's not just a common thing that I'm gonna go to psychiatrist or psychologist. So I felt really proud that I was able to bring in that topic to my family.
I am so happy to hear that. It gives me personal internal joy to hear that your family was more welcoming and we're not like, whoa, what's going on here or whatever. You brought shame to the family or how embarrassing and all that stuff. So I'm glad that it was the flip of what could have happened. So
Mm.
that brings me personal joy, even though I'm not part of the family, but still. But when growing up, though, I mean, you said that there's something going on with everybody in the family. So when you were younger, is that something uh, that anybody considered to get tested or checked out? Not saying like going to a psychiatrist or anything like that, because I understand that if you go to a psychiatrist, you must be crazy or there must be something wrong with you. But were there opportunities to even discuss this at home seriously?
No, not at all. I think that in Filipino culture, at least in my experience, it is very much still a taboo. I think having the access to social media, like almost the globalization, right? Like we can watch videos from America. What are the topics there? That is really what's bringing the conversation to the Philippines and inspiring Filipinos to talk about it, because they've seen other people from other countries talk about it. But growing up, it's not like a common thing. In fact, I actually never heard the word ADHD like growing up. It's more like hyper, like, oh, that kid is hyper. Don't give a chocolate, he's hyper, whatever that is. And most of the time, it's usually the boys that are considered hyper. And that is like the thing, like you cannot sit still, whatever that is. So for somebody to think that I have ADHD, not only that we don't really talk about it, but I'm also a woman, like it's not really, there's no such thing. And I'm not, when you talk to me, like, oh, she's so polished, she knows what she's talking. How can she have ADHD? I mean, everything is in my brain. So there's also like this lack of awareness of what is ADHD. It's not just a physical thing, it's like mental too. So yeah, we don't talk about it. And I think up until now, not a lot of people know enough about ADHD in Filipino culture.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I just want to highlight once again that every word that's coming out of your mouth about the lack of awareness and just the boys who are hyper, the girls are just like the calm ones, and how is it possible to for a girl to have all these not symptoms, but all these traits? Um, it hits home for me because I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm not Filipino. I'm from the UAE, and it's all in the same area. And I totally get every single word that's coming out of your mouth right now. So then we go back to you mentioned that the second therapist who you met was the one who told you about ADHD and about rewiring the brain as well. So it's been 2.5 years since the diagnosis. So from that time until now, what are some of the strategies or the rewiring techniques you have used to support yourself better?
I think the biggest part of me is like being more comfortable with it. I have to accept it that I have it. My therapist like to use features. Like it's not that you have these are your features. It's like a phone. You have a different feature than other people. Apple versus Samsung. Like you just have a different features. And so I think that having to accept that to myself, because I feel like Nani, for the longest time I compensate by overworking. A normal person probably would work 8 hours, but because I feel like I cannot focus, I have to, work 12, 16 hours. And, not just my husband, my friends are worried about me. I'm like, you're working too much. Are you okay? I haven't seen you for a while, all that stuff. Now I'm like, you know what? I have to, the first thing I would say is like the boundary part is really important to me. That's probably how I rewire my brain. I don't rush in the morning anymore. I give myself a full 1 hour. I know not everybody has that, but even like 30 minutes, giving my permission to say, I know I could get ready in 10 minutes, but I'm going to give myself 30 minutes because I don't want to rush myself. So I think that's one of the ways to rewire my brain. Again, the features, having to know that this is just my feature. The other thing that I rewire my brain is I learn to communicate what I have with people. I don't expect people to understand like what an ADHD is. So I like to call it like I was telling my team about it. I said, I'm gonna tell you how to manage me. I'm usually the one, right, managing them as a business owner, but I'm gonna say, I'm gonna tell you how to manage me. As an example, I would say, you know, we cannot go on a meeting without notes, because the problem with my ADHD is that I would give you 10 new things to do, not realizing that I already gave you 10 things to do last week because I already forgot about it. So, like things like that, having to sort of, you know, explain to people how can I work better, it is really a big thing, because I get to build my business around what works for me, and then they're not second guessing. especially in, when you work with global team, there's also different culture, right? So, working corporate, right, it's a little bit difficult. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, helping others how to manage me. Even my husband, he already knows. I said, like, I'm not gonna be I always say to him, like, just give me, like, I can be sensitive with feedback. I have to say that, especially to people that's close to me. But I would say, like, this is how you would give me feedback. Do a sandwich method, and I'll feel better. Having to do that, it's a lot easier.
That is so good to know, and I'm so glad that you were also suggesting how other people can communicate with you, or maybe even how other people can communicate with other folks who may have ADHD. Of course, it's not the same for everybody, but
Right.
at least that's a starting point. So let me ask you this question then. I've come across several people who now have ADHD, and some of them take medication and some don't.
Hmm.
So, do you know in your experience what works for you? What works for you better? Do you need to take medication for your ADHD? If you don't have to answer that if you don't want to, or do you go without medication?
So I don't go with medication. I was offered to me very easily. She was like, "I'm gonna write you right now," and I'm like, "Wait, let me let me think about this." And I know it is important for other people that they need that medication. I went on a journey of, like, you know what? Let me try it in next 3 years, see if I can do it without it. In my head, like, I've been coping for such a long time. Let me just try. What would that be? So I'm going through experiment right now. After my diagnosis, I said, let me do it on the way I'm doing right now in 3 years, and then let's check in again. Maybe I feel like I need it a couple of months from now. So it's good that we have access to it, but I'm personally not taking any right now.
That makes me feel better too because I remember going to college. This was again a long time ago, so I don't want to date myself, but I don't know why I had all this unnecessary anxiety, and I wanted to do everything. I decided to go see a school counselor just to see what's going on. And the moment I went there, they just, without too much thought, gave
Mm.
me access to Xanax.
Mm.
And I was like, do I really need to take medication for something that I don't know what it is and how it's going to affect me? And you're not even giving me a proper diagnosis, but it's easy for you to give me medication. So I'm glad that you are in your experimental phase right now because I know I didn't take medication and I was fine without it. So, just to take a brief stop for a second. Anybody who's watching, if you have any questions for Amy regarding her business or her ADHD or how she copes day to day, please feel free to leave that in the comments, and then we can have Amy answer them as soon as they pop up. So that would be awesome because, like I said, not everybody experiences the same thing the same way. And I'm actually very curious, Amy. You mentioned the whole closing the door or cupboard thing. What do you mean by that? Does that affect your cleanliness or does that affect, like, can you elaborate on that?
You know what it is? So when I cook in the kitchen, you don't want to see me in the kitchen. I'm gonna give you anxiety because here's what I do. I don't close even the fridge because in my head I'm gonna open it anyway. What's the point of closing it? Because I'm gonna come back there again. So I just leave the fridge the entire open, and I'm only gonna close it because I hear that beep 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 and I close it. I'm like, "Ah, I have to close it." But yes, the cupboard is one. I don't close lids a lot, like, because you know what it is. When I think more about it, I'm trying to move fast. Like, I'm not yet done closing it. I'm already thinking of the second and third thing that I have to do. And to the point that my husband would bring it up and be like, "You don't close even your contact lenses, like the bottle." So it's like, you got to keep it closed because it's in the bathroom. You're not supposed to do that. So he's like picking up those crumbs from me. And I know I have to give him a lot of, credit because he's been very patient. But yeah, like, I tend to forget things. And so going back to my morning routine, right? I know I can get ready in 10, 15 minutes, but I have to give myself 1 hour. So I do things slow So I make sure the lights are off, the fridge is closed, the cupboard is closed, and all that stuff. But it's just one of those things. I have to work harder. It seems like an easy thing to do, but my brain, I have to work a lot harder just to close the cupboard. Like I know it sounds silly, but it's my someone told me about it. Like you're so good at business. I'm very good with business, but how come I cannot close a cupboard? It is true, but it is what it is. I guess I just in my head I think maybe it's not that important, but I know it is important for some.
I am so glad you're sharing this story because, yes, I have issues with closing the microwave. And I never understood why I don't close the microwave. I take the food out of it and then just leave it open and then go about my day. And the kitchen thing is real, at least for me. And I think my partner can verify that information as well. So this is awesome. And we have 15 minutes with Amy, 15 more minutes with Amy. So if anybody, like I said, drop your questions and then we will be happy to answer, get them answered for you. And also please say hi if you're here. If even if you don't have any questions, just say hi and do your thing with any curiosities that you have. So Amy, then I guess my next question is because you're a business owner, you obviously have to tackle a lot of different things, especially with ADHD as well. So, what would you recommend that other business owners think about when they're hiring employees or building a team, when it comes to people with who are neurodivergent, not just specifically ADHD, but neurodivergence in general? What suggestion would you give to them?
I think it is so important that you build like it is so important for a business owner to know yourself first. Like you gotta know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then from there you have to build a team. I do that by like literally just listing down my SWOT analysis of myself. What are my strengths? What are my weakness? All that stuff. Because what it is that sometimes you hire someone just because they're good, but they're not complementary with your skills and even energy, right? And so that's where you struggle and you waste time, energy, and frustration. And sometimes it's not really. I like to think this way, Nani. It's not really the other person. Usually, when things go wrong, I always try to say it's me, right? Like a lot of people, it's so easy to say like, oh, it's them. Like, no, it's me because I'm the one who hired that person. I made that mistake, right? So, I think that if you are building a team, you gotta know yourself. Make sure that you're hiring people with complementary skills and energy, right? You have to be clear with expectation. As someone with ADHD, I struggle with clarity a lot because my brain is faster than my mouth. Like that's really what it is. Like sometimes I'm already in my second sentence. I haven't even started my first sentence. Like it's pretty bad. So what I do is that I actually write down my thoughts of like what do I want as a team, because if I know I can write it, then it means it's clear. If I cannot write it down in full sentence, it means I'm not clear with what I want. And so having to really sit on the thoughts, like it's not like you don't have to rush when it comes to hiring. If you cannot understand what you really need, don't expect other people to do well because they're not clear to begin with. And so, I built Foodcraft the past 6 years, and I take a lot of time and energy in like thinking about what we need, what qualities I should be looking for. So that's one, clarity. The second thing that I would say is that you have to disclose. I like to disclose. We actually have this thing. I don't know. I recommend other teams to do it. When people join our team, we have team profile. And what it does is like, what is your name? What is your nickname? Do you have a pet? Do you have anything that you want to disclose? And so whenever somebody is onboarding with us, they can see like almost like autobiography of your coworkers, and you're welcome to disclose that. And I say to the team, like, I have ADHD. This is my tendency. Like, what is it something that I should know about you so we can support each other, right? And so having to be really clear about my diagnosis. Like I want them to be comfortable. I don't push them to talk about their mental struggles or challenges or whatnot, but like I like to set a role of being vulnerable and being transparent, right? And I think that has worked with our team so far. We have a lot of them were with me since year one. We're almost in year six, and even the teams that have to leave for personal reason, they're still part of our community. So be clear, right, and be vulnerable and transparent about your needs as a business owner.
That is so awesome. And I think that is a good thing that you highlighted because a lot of hiring managers or even small business owners don't think about things like that. They just want somebody who can benefit them, and if not, then go away type of a mentality. So I really appreciate you sharing this as a learning curve as well, or as a learning point uh, for other people who are in leadership, not just business owners, but leadership in general, and how to talk to employees because you don't know anyone's struggles.
Right. Yeah. I think I wanted to add also, like, is like especially if you have a remote team that's global team, every culture is different too.
Mhm.
You have to really be really good with that. I think that is one of my unfair advantage because living in New York City, being Filipino, being Asian, I know a lot of cultural norms, and so I can turn on and off my Filipino culture brain and then turn it on back end in American culture brain. So, that's really important. People call it code switching, right? So
Mhm.
that's one thing that there's no different strokes for different folks, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's another thing. And I think that since we're talking about ADHD, Noni, like, I wanted to share how sometimes in Asian culture, we don't talk about ADHD because of the trauma. I think you mentioned that earlier on, right? Like it's a trauma response, right? You don't want to show weakness. You always have to be polished and all that stuff. So even in like teams, whether they have ADHD or not, they wouldn't admit that I made a mistake, weakness, whatever that is. You really have to know your team well on a personal level, and it just makes it working easy.
That is so cool. That is actually pretty awesome. And I wish more people followed that. I know a very small number of people who have that thought process, but I think if more people did that, then I think work culture would be much better as we move forward. And in the 10 minutes that we have left, Amy, I do want to take a look at a few comments that came in from YouTube and LinkedIn. And uh, we'll start with Jackie. Great questions. Thank you, Jackie. Uh, Kenny, I don't know if you win a prize or not. I think prize full expense paid. Uh, I don't know about that. Uh, love your detective to figure out who she was. Yep. It didn't take that long, but I'm glad that Amy finally, not finally, but she responded back to me, and that's all that matters. Uh, color coordination is highly underrated. I agree with that. And then we have, oh, lots of people saying hello to you, Amy. Yay.
Hey, hello. Well, I'm excited. I wish I really love talking about ADHD. Just because, like, the more I talk about it, the more I realize that there's more people out there that has it. And I think that I want to remove the stigma around talking about ADHD. My biggest thing actually, someone told me, she was like, "Oh, you're so comfortable talking about ADHD." And Ani, I think that many of us, see ADHD as a flaw, but I think that if I didn't have ADHD, I wouldn't be able to pull off what I did in my business. I started Foodcraft with less than 2 grand. I was delusional, borderline, to think that I'll make it through the pandemic, right? I was just have this strong confidence that I'll figure it out, and part of it is impulse, and it was like super focused, right, when I needed it, and 6 years in, it still serves me well. And even like building different events. Right now, we have about more than 30 events in Foodcraft. I had help with my team, but same thing. I am able to think quickly because of it. So we always see ADHD like, oh, I forgot my cupboard. Maybe it has to be my ADHD, but I'm like, well, I can cook in 15 minutes because of my ADHD too. So we have to give credit to ADHD, not just when things are wrong, but when things are right.
Sorry, I had to sneeze there for a second. But yes, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Turn it into from a negative thing to a positive thing, it becomes your superpower. And Kenny says, Amy thought out of the box to create a product in the box, savor the flavor of the awesomeness in that.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a definitely unique event business. You know, I could go in a different route, but I really felt good about that idea. And you know, again, I have to give credit to my ADHD. I've always wanted to create something so unique and creative. If you give me an ornament and it's boring, I would put something on it to make it creative. Like there's always to be a Amy some, sprinkle, whatever that is. And again,
Mhm.
I think it's because of my ADHD. So um,
For sure. And closing the microwave door is not as closing important as closing the dryer door. Yeah. And then we have ADHD is definitely impact individuals with disabilities. Okay, how confident are you that those diagnosed with ADHD will be cured?
well, I can answer that. I honestly don't see it as something a cure. Like I think that it's more like you could just learn to live with it. And really, again, it's a feature, right? It's not like a flaw that needs to be cured. There's nothing. It's almost like, again, the phone has features. So you just have to make sure that you build a support system that would kind of support you in that way, right? I don't think it's something that, oh, drink this medicine and you will be cured. It probably would just suppress certain things. But yeah.
Awesome. And is this you, Amy? It has your last name or one of your last names.
Oh,
Okay.
it must be my sister. Hi, Alan.
Oh, hi, Alan. Nice to meet you, Alan. So glad that you could make it. And this is fantastic. So I guess I guess my last question would be, Amy, for you is, what are some of your closing thoughts? I know you mentioned that you love to talk about ADHD. What are some things that, or what are some tips that you can give our audience, who may not know much about ADHD or who haven't even heard of the acronym ADHD? And how would you like to make them aware?
Well, two things, right? If you know somebody that have ADHD, know that they may do things, but it's not their intention of doing things. You have to give them a benefit of a doubt. Like you have to be like, oh, she didn't do close the cupboard to piss me off. Like that's not true, right? Like they just need gentle reminders for certain things, but they mean well. If you know somebody with ADHD, right? Like all the best thing you can do is to listen to them. There's no really like, oh, you should drink medicine, you should do this. Like every person is different. So maybe one person you saw on TikTok or Instagram, this worked out for them. Maybe ashwagandha works for them, but maybe the other person won't have that. So every person is different. Just be there, listen, support, right? And know that they mean well. Give them gentle reminders. People with ADHD, whether we admit it or not, we're sensitive to criticism, and it's not a bad thing. It's just that because we're working so hard, already to just close the microwave, the cupboard, and all that stuff. And then I guess the other thing is, only if you know someone or other folks out there, you don't have to wait for diagnosis to practice some of the ADHD strategies that you've seen online. Like if you feel like, I'm struggling to focus, you don't need to go to get a diagnosis to try an Eisenhower matrix, or you don't need a diagnosis to create a structure in your life, right? So, I always say my team, like you may or may not have it, but it's not a bad thing to have a block calendar to just do that one thing. So I think that I'm fortunate. I feel really grateful that I get to have therapy session once a week. Not everybody has that. I understand that. And so it's important to find communities, I guess, that has that. um, and I think that if you can, I really always recommend for folks that I know have ADHD, try entrepreneurship. I always say that, it's really like a game changer. I know for some it might be hard to start, but message me. I'd love to coach you on that, DM me and all the stuff, share my insights. But it's something that might be good because you can build your strengths around it. So yeah.
That was amazing, Amy, and thank you for sharing that too. Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, they do have some form of ADHD, if not entirely, and that's always a good thing to have to keep it. It helps with the focus and the craziness and the obsession that you mentioned earlier to make your vision come to life. So, speaking of businesses, what is first question is, what type of food activities are you offering in Food Crafts, Kids by Food Craft? And second, which is your favorite?
Well, we do a lot of events. As I mentioned, we do over 30 events in
Mhm.
Foodcraft. We do from bubble tea making, you mentioned that cookie decorating, but we also have like churro making, for dumpling making. But if I were to pick my favorite, I really like the cookie decorating. I what I like about that is that it's family friendly. I mean, who doesn't like cookies? But at the same time, I like the feeling of like breaking down the steps on how to decorate cookies. And then you'd be surprised. I'm like, whoa, actually, I can decorate cookies, right? So, um,
Mhm.
we like to think of it as we want to surprise you that you can actually do it. I say this in one of the conversation I had. It's sometimes it's not even that you lack the resources. You could buy cookies and you get icing, but it's really the confidence that you can, and that's why we have the host instructors to give you the confidence that you can decorate cookies and all this stuff. I've seen really happy faces during those events, and it makes me extra excited about what we do.
Oh yes, I agree 100% because I remember making boba by myself at home and using all of the kits and the ingredients and things like that. It was a lot of fun. And you're right, it gives you a sense of confidence as well. That yes, I can do something so small and then let me apply that confidence to something else in my personal life as well to grow or as a growth aspect of me or as a person in themselves. So that is freaking awesome. And speaking of awesomeness, folks, please do go to Kids by Foodcraft Inc. When I did them for 2 years, it was an amazing experience. I loved so much. I loved all of it, and I loved how to assemble things from not just a fun perspective, but also a science perspective. And the next one I want to do definitely, if I get the opportunity, that would be the cookie decorating one because it's very similar to painting,
Mm,
and I love to paint, so why not, right? Why not?
I love.
And feel free, go ahead.
No, I love that. I didn't know that you love to paint. That is so cool.
Oh yeah, I love to paint, except my hand isn't as stable as it used to be. So, but it's okay. Practice makes perfect. And I was just gonna say, anybody, please feel free to go to Kits by Foodcraft Inc. They have an amazing option. They even have free events for anyone to join. So I think the most recent one was a cookie-based one too, or reindeer one, right?
Right. Yeah. So since I moved to Fort Worth, Texas, I'm so obsessed with farm animals to the point that we're bringing llamas from, I think, Ohio, and then we have reindeers from Alaska. We show them on Zoom, and they get to like see like after the meeting. Imagine you have 2 hour meeting, and you see llamas in costumes and reindeers in Alaska. We did that over December, but this coming 2026, the first one for January 9th. We're doing a sumi. So a lot of our events, we like to do cultural aspect of it. So food craft is my way to share my story and other people culture as well. So we're gonna be painting koi fish. Apparently, fish is lucky for Lunar New Year. So we're gonna be doing that. We'll give you guys the link where you can sign up for a free workshop. But thanks for having me, Nani. It's always fun to talk about ADHD and business in general.
And I'm so thrilled that you're here, and I'm glad that there's one question.
Oh.
Uh, I'm not sure if it was discussed, but I'm interested in knowing employees with ADHD are afraid that if they do something wrong or make a huge mistake, they face consequences. How can companies or employers solve this?
I'm happy to answer that. I think that it depends, right? Well, not it depends. So the quick answer to that is that you have to create a culture where people feel they're the ones they can make mistakes, right? And so and then you have to define what is like a big mistake. It was like an okay mistake, a small mistake. A big mistake is something to do with um, anything about my our customers. But if it's like, maybe the report is late, or maybe I forgot this and that, those are small mistakes. Then you could just have the conversation. I actually set up my team. One of my employees, she always forget her weekly report, Noni. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this person. Like, she's not doing the weekly reports. So have a conversation with her. And she also have ADHD, and I know what works for my brain. So I was like, this is what works for my brain. How about we do your report differently? And it's not that I'm giving you a special favor, but I just know that this might work better for you. So to answer the question, I think that you have to have a conversation with your boss, and the boss have to have a conversation with the employee. What works for them will not work with maybe the other employees, so you have to kind of tweak that. Now, as somebody coming from, if you're an employee going to a company, not everybody has that, right? Not everybody has that kind of culture. So I think that I would I would recommend that you discuss that at the beginning of your employment. You have to disclose that, and if the culture is not a fit, that's what the culture would during the interview, right? They always say if culture fit or not. That's something I would disclose probably in the beginning.
Got it. And Jay, I hope that answers your question. But we did not discuss this before, so I'm glad that you asked this. And I think that's a good segue to come to an end because we're 3 minutes over and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So, Amy, once again, thank you so much
Of
for
course.
donating 1 hour of your time to us and educating us more about ADHD and your journey and your family and things like that, and especially your business. So, everyone, please go to Kids by Foodcraft Inc. They have some really cool activities, and I think that can serve them in your own jobs or your own teams as well. So, uh, and also, please do follow us at O.Z.K Studios on YouTube and Instagram. I would really appreciate the support so I can make more content like this moving forward on LinkedIn and outside of LinkedIn as well. So, with that being said, once again, Amy, thank you so much. And everyone else, have a wonderful rest of your Saturday and weekend. Take care. Bye.